Darren Till says he's going to kick Tommy Fury in the head if he's losing his fight. Watch this video. Hello, welcome Tommy Edson. I hope you're all well. So Tommy Fury against Darren Till for January the 18th in this Misfits event, and they just had their press conference. And now what the interesting thing for me is that Darren Till suddenly went off on one and started going head-to-head with John Fury as well and Tommy Fury, and they squared off and all the security had to get involved. But essentially, Darren Till was saying, and I think they were trying to lay this off as a joke later, he said, I don't know how much I'm being paid. I don't care how much I'm being paid. I just wanted to fight. And if it's not going my way in the ring, I'm just going to kick him in the head and just do my MMA stuff, elbow him. And, the question was trying to be fired back at him from Tommy Fury. So what are you getting into the boxing ring for? And this is where I see it as well. If you're going to come in and give it the big one, Darren Till this is, then surely you know how much you're getting paid for that. So that's bullshit, right? You know how much you're getting paid. And you're certainly not stupid enough to do something that's going to jeopardize you getting your money at the end of it. Now, if you are, fair play to you, because that's entirely up to you. But I don't believe for 1 second that he doesn't know how much he's getting paid for this, and two, risking it all just by disqualifying himself in the bout. Now, of course, he's trying to sell the fight and he's trying to sell himself, but he's got to be very, very careful in how he controls himself in that fight. Because in the previous video, I talked about that Darren Till came out of the MMA world. He'd been getting into boxing. He's had one fight, I think, wherever it was in Dubai. It worked well for him, but not for the other guy who tried to have some afters after the bell. But he hasn't been able to get a fight. He hasn't been able to get a fight anywhere. Now, the question is, he's got himself into the boxing ring, and he's tried to get himself into different events. This is the only one that's wanted to take him. So you kind of have to tread a bit carefully here in terms of what you're willing to say, or certainly what you're willing to do. What you're willing to say is a different thing. Now, he kept on saying this thing, I'll kick him, I'll elbow him, and it didn't look good. The problem is, we're not talking about MMA. It never has been about MMA. If you're coming into the boxing ring, regardless of what it is, you've got to show your boxing skills. Okay, so this is the whole point. If you don't think boxing is such a great fighting or combat sport for you, then why are you coming into it? Why? Because of the money? So you're willing to exploit it for the money, but you're not willing to give it the respect that it deserves. Now, the other side of this, I think it was all just balls and bluster. I think he was just winding everybody up, and he's not really going to do it. He's not really going to resort to that kind of thing. And if he does this and he sticks to boxing, well, whichever way you look at it, he sounded and he acted quite intimidating, I've got to say. He come in with a certain message, and he thought, you know what, I'm going to give it to you and see what your response is. And in a fair play, Tommy Fury gave it back as well. But giving it the big one before a fight and actually getting it into a ring, totally different things. Let's just see what happens. And I have no doubt that Tommy Fury against Darren Till is going to be quite a decent fight in terms of the Misfits world. I think this is a step up, and I'm actually quite intrigued from a boxing point of view to see what levels can they bring. My only concern is that it descends into some kind of chaotic nonsense that nobody really wants to watch. And this really comes down to what Darren Till does. Is he going to stick to boxing, and how good is his boxing? Now, he's been training with some great fighters and a great gym up in Liverpool. Let's say he's had that one fight, and he says he's done lots of boxing. He's always focused on his boxing as well. I don't think that's ever really shown in his MMA world. So the other question here is, for me, for Darren Till in particular, if he's been struggling to find a fight and he's come out of the UFC, what is the problem with him continuing MMA in another organization? One, PFL, let's just say Octagon, or whatever the other European MMA organizations are. What about he goes to bare knuckle boxing or something like that? What has been the problem that he hasn't been able to get into a combat sport somewhere? So is it his intention the whole time that he wanted to get into boxing? Because that's where the growing money, and that's where the money's always been. If you get the right fight, you get the right payday, that's where it's going to be. So this has always been my contention with MMA fighters dissing the boxing world, but at the same time, they still want to come to boxing. They say, oh, it's only half a fight, it's not a fight, what's the point of me going to them? Yeah, they give it all that, but they still want to come to it. because they think they can do well. The problem with MMA fighters, as we know, in terms of boxing, got nothing about fighting. This is not about street fighting. This is not about MMA fighting. This is not who would win in the real world. This is about boxing, okay? So you come into the boxing ring. This is what you wanted to come into. How good are you? Because MMA fighters are not good boxers. The reason why they're not good boxers, because if you're a boxer in the MMA world, you're too vulnerable. Therefore, your stance, your foot positioning, your body positioning in MMA is completely wrong for boxing. They come in from the MMA world into the boxing world, and they could easily get found out if they don't fully train as boxers. Now, the question here is Darren Till something different? I believe he is. I believe he's done a lot of boxing training, certainly coming out of the MMA world. I think all he's done is focus on boxing. So is he the same standard or a better standard than Tommy Fury? There's a good chance that he is. There's a good chance here that he will do what he's supposed to do in the ring. And regardless of what he's saying beforehand and what he's going to do about kicking him in the head or kicking his legs and all that, kind of giving him an elbow, I don't think he's going to resort to that. I think that's a load of nonsense. I think that actually his boxing skills will have a good chance against the boxing skills of Tommy Fury. Now, you notice I'm talking about boxing skills here because I don't think they're probably going to be at any kind of level. Tommy Fury's already shown the level that he's at, and Darren Till coming out of the MMA world is probably at that certain level as well. It'd be very interesting to see how they go, but it'd be very interesting to see how Darren Till does in the ring, and does he stick to boxing or will he resort to something else? Because he does, he's going to ruin it for himself. Nobody will ever want to touch him again. Certainly in boxing, you might have a chance to go back into the MMA world, but listen, if he wanted to go into the MMA, he would already be there. He wouldn't be out in the wilderness, as it were. Very interesting. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what I do here, just keep on watching the videos and I'll catch you again. Bye now.